Sports regulations for transgender athletes are undergoing significant changes worldwide. Some international sports organizations, including World Boxing and World Athletics, are reintroducing controversial genetic sex testing. Meanwhile, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee has effectively barred transgender women from competing in women's Olympic events. Previously, President Trump signed an executive order that banned transgender athletes from participating in women's sports at the federal level.
From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
But how fair or unfair is it really when transgender women compete against cis women? In this fact check, we take a closer look at the facts. But before we dive into this debate, let's clarify. A cis woman is a person who is assigned female sex at birth and also identifies as female. A transgender woman is assigned male sex at birth but identifies as female. When as part of her transition she undergoes hormone therapy, her testosterone levels drop significantly. Among others, this leads to decreased muscle mass, bone density and oxygen intake capacity, all key factors in athletic performance. So testosterone is really important for physical advantages that lead to men outperforming women in many sports.
At puberty, boys' testosterone concentrations increase 20 to 30-fold. We know that increases muscle mass, which then leads to increased muscle strength. We know muscle strength is a key factor in athletic performance.
But doesn't testosterone suppression then level the playing field between trans women and cis women? Not quite. A small study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, for example, came to the conclusion that after at least 1 year of hormone therapy, trans women had lower hand grip strength than cis men, but still more hand grip strength than cis women. Hand grip strength is considered an indicator of overall muscle strength. One of the most high-profile cases of transgender athletes in the female category was Laura Hubbard from New Zealand, who made history in 2021 by competing in the women's weightlifting category at the Tokyo Olympics. Hubbard had previously competed in men's weightlifting. Her participation sparked global controversy. Supporters argued that she followed all the rules set by the IOC, while critics claimed her physiology gave her an advantage. A similar debate erupted around American swimmer Lia Thomas, who became the first transgender athletes to win the highest US national college title in March 2022. Later, World Aquatics changed their rules and excluded all participants from the women's category who had gone through male puberty. Lia Thomas could not compete in the Paris Olympics 2024. You might as well have seen the discussion around Algerian boxer Iman Khalif. The Paris Olympics gold medal winner has been facing controversy surrounding her sex and her eligibility for the female boxing category for years. She was specifically mentioned when World Boxing announced mandatory sex testing. But caution, Khalif is not a transgender woman. She was born as a female. There are unverified speculations that she might have DSD, which stands for Differences of Sexual Development. The term describes a group of rare conditions where a person's reproductive or sexual anatomy doesn't fit typical definitions of male and female. People often confuse DSD and transgender athletes. But back to our main question. Is the performance gap between trans women and cis women really too big to compete against each other? A study conducted at the University of Missouri, Kansas City examined the long-term effects of hormone therapy on US military personnel who underwent gender-affirming therapy. It found that 1 year after starting hormone therapy, trans women still performed better than cis women. But after 2 years, the performance gap largely disappeared. However, according to a summary of the scientific literature by British experts in 2020, a good part of the male athletic advantages persists even after 2 years of hormone therapy.
Of the typical male-female difference, when someone lowers testosterone, probably only about 10 or 20% of that difference is removed. So a significant, in quotes, male advantage still exists. And therefore, it's really difficult to justify maintaining fairness and safety in certain sports with the participation of transgender women.
The persisting benefits, even after testosterone levels have dropped, are partly because male puberty leaves a long-lasting impact. Before, boys and girls are much more equal when it comes to athletic abilities. However, a recent study suggests consistent differences even before puberty. Researchers studied children aged 8 and under and aged 9 and 10, competing in several running distances. They also looked at shot put, javelin throw, and long jump.
The boys were running faster than the girls. The boys were throwing faster than the girls. The boys were jumping faster than the girls. And of course, we calculated a percent difference and came up for running, it was anywhere from about 3 to 6% difference depending on the event. For long jump, it was about right around 5% difference. For the throwing events, it was close to 20 to 30% difference.
For Brown, the finding of a continued male advantage among 9-year-old and younger casts even more doubt on whether hormone therapy could level the playing field, because the male advantage goes beyond hormones and puberty. With that being said, transgender women athletes also face some disadvantages.
After going through hormone therapy, trans women are now moving their bodies with reduced aerobic capacity, reduced muscle mass. And so they now have larger bodies that are being powered by smaller engines. And so that can lead to disadvantages in things like quickness, recovery, endurance. Trans people in general have poorer mental health than cis people. And mental well-being is also an important component of sports performance.
So do transgender women have an unfair advantage when they compete against cis women in sports? The answer is not simple.
There is no perfect answer that anyone has come up with, in my opinion. I believe the least bad option would be to use sex recorded at birth.
I would suggest that DSD and trans athletes who've undergone testosterone suppression should be allowed into the female category.
A trans woman cannot erase their male sex-based advantage and then compete on a level playing field with female.
However, most researchers agree on one thing. We need more studies on trans athletes. The lack of studies is also due to the low number of trans athletes. Estimates in the US, for example, are that all transgender individuals make up approximately 0.6% of the general population. And the percentage of transgender women at the elite sports level is thought to be even lower. For sports bodies, it has been a tough task to translate the complexity of scientific evidence into eligibility rules in the female category that are fair and inclusive for all participants. What makes it even more complicated is that the male advantage plays a different role, depending on the kind of sport. While it creates major performance differences in strength sports, such as weightlifting, the situation is different in other sports like shooting or dancing. For darts competitions, for instance, there's often one category for all. This means that the participation of trans women in the female category is not equally fair or unfair in every sport. Everyone should be able to play sports without discrimination. At the same time, fair conditions are what keeps the spirit of competitive sports alive. Does banning transgender athletes in the end align with the spirits of sports? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below or write to us at factchecking@dw.com.